Welcome, everyone, to Enhancing the User Experience with Mobile Credentials. I'm Doug Greenwald with the Convergint Digital Transformation Team, and joining me from Solo Insight to help us demonstrate how we're accelerating organizations adopting mobile credentials is Tim Caruso and Josh Carrington. Gentlemen, thank you for your time and expertise today.
Thank you for having us, Doug.
Pleasure to be here, Doug.
You bet. And so for those of you watching, we do want this to be somewhat interactive. So if at any point you have a question, please find the Q&A button down below, drop it in there, and we'll go ahead and answer those in as close to real time as possible. Now, Convergint is partnered with Solo Insight to deliver their CloudGate platform that offers a comprehensive workplace experience across your physical security assets that enables automation and insights across your workflows that have historically been manual. Now, Tim and the team are going to provide a little more context there as we proceed, but out of the gates, guys, I really want to be true to the topic of our time together. And I think it's really important for us to start by addressing the elephant in the room. There's a lot more that goes into being mobile ready if you're an organization looking to get away from traditional plastic cards. Let's start by talking about how you prepare before you buy your first mobile credential.
Thank you, Doug. And Josh, if you don't mind sharing your screen, there's a few things that we need to be aware of when talking about mobility right before, because everyone wants mobility. We use our cell phones for everything that we possibly can use. But looking at your organization, you first want to say, okay, is my hardware ready for mobility? And then when it is, which type of mobility? So there's a difference between BLE, which is Bluetooth credentials, and NFC, which is near field communication credentials. And the difference is really the hardware set. It starts with the hardware set. For the most part, every major smartphone on the market today can facilitate some type of mobile credential, some type of wallet function for credit cards and for credentials. So what really companies have to be aware of is my hardware ready for mobility? So when it comes to Bluetooth, that's going to be a little easier, right, to your organization. Depending on what panels you have, a lot of different manufacturers out there today have Bluetooth enabled readers. Now, the issue or the concern that you need to have is when you want to talk about NFC. For Bluetooth credentials, you first have to identify, do my Bluetooth readers or my readers have a Bluetooth antenna? Right, that's something that you could talk to Convergint about. You can look up in your orders, you can look up on your panels to say, okay, do I have a Bluetooth antenna in these readers? That's really all you need for Bluetooth credentials. Now, when you go to near field communication or NFC credentials, the line gets a little bit drawn there. So if a reader not just has to have what's called EV2 or EV3 certifications, right? That's step number one. The second step is if they went through the correct vetting for the NFC credentials that we're using into the market. And really, there's only a few brands out there today that have access to those. So if you want to talk about those or respond in the chat, we can review the brands, but today we're really just trying to talk about the process. But really, there's very few brands on the market today. There's HID, there's Wavelengths, there's a few on the market that OEM those two readers that can do it. And then there's also going to be more advancements as we move forward with technology in the very near future and going on into the next 18 months. So really, that could be an entire additional conversation aside from what we're doing today. But what we're really trying to identify is changing the mindset to the market when it comes to credentials and access control. And why do we have this first slide up, right? Build your future workplace experience. Well, everyone, for the most part, started with brand recognition. I want this platform because it does X, Y, and Z features. I want this access controller, this video platform because my friend has it, my colleague has it. But in reality, the market is changing, as we know for a fact. Technology is changing and it's advancing. So what CloudGate or Solo Insight, CloudGate is our product, what Solo Insight has come to the market and identified is that if corporations or organizations around the world shifted their focus to the identity and the workflows associated to those identities in your organization, you now have workplace automation. That automation is really what Solo Insight has come to the market over the last 10 years, going on 11, and focused on. So if you look at visitors, contractors, employees, for the most part, whether you're a school, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're healthcare, whatever the organization, whatever the vertical your organization resides in, you're still going to have workflows that are dictated by the identity. So visitors, for instance, in education, a visitor could be a student because they're only there for a certain amount of years, certain amount of semesters, and then they move on to another building, to different titles, to different positions. For contractors, that really can be dependent on if they're contingent workers, if they're multi-year contracts you have for service and support. And then with those contractors, you may also have hourly, and you may also have contracted, such as 6-month workers. Those are going to have different accesses to different logical systems and physical systems in your organization. As we move to employees is going to be the most in-depth and the most clustered form of workflows in your organization. And all three of those, right, the control of all three of those identities refers to what we call in the industry as physical identity access management, or PIAM. You'll be seeing that a lot, especially if you're going to GSX. We'll be partnering with Convergint GSX and also our own booth. PIAM is going to be the hot button topic of the market. And why is that? Because taking the three identities you see before you, combining those with mobile credentials opens you up to workflows within your physical and logical security ecosystems. So for instance, visitors may only need to access maybe their parking lots, maybe give them QR codes to give them access to parking, maybe register in with your visitor management, possible approvals if you have to do things like federal watch list cross checks or identity checks on their licenses or IDs. When you move up, it gets more complex. Contractors, you may have to give them a credential, which is what your identity system is. They may require background checks. They may require vaccinations, NDAs, COIs, any type of different access or different credentials, training certificates, OSHA certificates that they may have to import. Now, traditionally, all of that is a very manual, heavy, interdepartment process, multi-departmental process. What we're trying to do is saying, okay, contractors may need to have access to identity, access control, maybe space, maybe they have to register a desk or conference room, maybe parking, maybe they have to register in with the visitor management because they are visitors, and then the various approvals and alerting processes. Then we move on to employees. Employees is going to be your most complex and thick workflows in your organization, because their identity now gives you access to everything. HR, identity, access, space, parking, visitors, approvals. They will have to touch every single department inside your organization. So we came to market identifying the issue as an identity issue, not necessarily a product issue. Now, what I'm going to do is introduce Josh Carrington, who is our technical product manager for Solo Insight. Myself, I'm the director of sales for healthcare and enterprise. So Josh is going to be introducing the workflows, and we're going to be kind of going back and forth. And if you have any questions, I'll be actively screening the Q&A to answer those immediately. But please, Josh, take it away.
Thanks, Tim. And, so as we talk about workflows and how workflows impact all sorts of different identities coming in and out of our facilities, from a product level, we want to put that perspective in a different lens. So instead of thinking about just the ifs and the ors of how we build these workflows, for today's conversation, we really want to talk about how we engage these everyday users. So when visitors come into a facility, how do they engage that process that you've defined? Do they walk up to a kiosk and they scan their driver's license so they can have a badge printed in an automated fashion? So we see this happening quite a bit in healthcare to cut down on the number of people trying to get in and get into the facility to see a loved one. We also have the ability to send out pre-registration and pre-approvals. So we see this life cycle becoming more of a self-service through that experience. And then as those workflows, as those processes become more granular, as Tim talked about, we start to see that employee engagement most commonly through the workplace experience apps. So with CloudGate, what we'll focus on quite a bit today is how we can use that CloudGate app in order to create a workplace experience to help drive that automation and to drive the engagement with things like mobile credentials. So if somebody has a Bluetooth ready reader or Bluetooth ready access control system, how can you elegantly put that within a mobile application, instruct that person to use that credential for the first time, but then also allow them to utilize that for special spaces, for special meetings that they're invited to, and be able to automate the different access levels that they're going to need. As security gets enhanced, as that user journey progresses, we also see credentials in the market, such as the employee badge and Apple Wallet. This allows users to move that credential out of the mobile app, like a Bluetooth credential typically would be, and actually place that within the Apple Wallet so that you can use that just like you would with the Apple Pay that's already on your phone. So you can use that to tap in at doors, tap in at different locations around the facility, and we'll share some of that user experience with you today. But where we see that major shift in security is being able to have that everyday interaction with employees. So if they're traveling to new locations, if they need an access approval before that credential is going to be granted, bringing them into an app experience where they can make those different requests in an everyday way.
And what we're really trying to reach on, and apologies, Josh, for that, what we're really trying to reach on is not just automation. Automation is like kind of like the tip of the iceberg. Think about the departmental strain that you have today, the various different constraints of hiring, difficulty of hiring decent talent, especially in the post-COVID world that we live in today, especially the fact that you have hybrid work environments now, more so than we've ever seen in human history. So the departmental strain, the adaptation to multi-workplace environments now, that is what CloudGate is really trying to solve, and keeping your regulation, your audits, your reporting strong. That way you don't have to break how you run your business, how effectively you run your business, and it only improves company and employee morale when you have things automated. Please proceed, Jess.
So if we look at one of the simplest forms of automation, it's getting in faster with your iPhone. It's being able to take something like that NFC credential, that employee badge, and being able to move that into your Apple Wallet. So that journey starts with your workplace experience app. You don't need all of the bells and whistles to be able to reserve rooms or to manage your guests. You can simply, down here at the bottom, manage your tasks, or maybe the badge that was assigned to you. So as we dive deeper into this demonstration, we'll share some of the administrative roles. So as HR maybe onboards you as a new associate for the first time, you can receive an elegant email that instructs you how to download your workplace experience app, how to log in for the first time. And in that application, you're going to have a notification explaining to you how you can now provision your credential maybe to Apple Wallet as well. So that employee badge will now live in the Apple Wallet. So there's a lot of talk about the differences between the user experiences of Apple Wallet as it compares to Bluetooth. So what we also wanted to do is tee up a video to really share how the employee badge today works in a user environment. And then we'll dive deeper again into that workplace experience app as well. So in this next slide here, I'm just going to kind of go on mute and allow you guys kind of to see how that employee journey is going to look once you provision that mobile credential.
Getting up and running with Employee Badge and Apple Wallet is easy. To start, employees log into their company's mobile app using single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. Once logged in, they can add their Employee Badge to Apple Wallet by tapping Add. If they have an Apple Watch, the badge will automatically be added. Now they're ready to access their workplace by simply holding their iPhone or Apple Watch to the HID reader, with no need to unlock their device or open any apps. To learn more about Employee Badge and Apple Wallet and how your organization can provide secure, convenient access to offices, elevators, printers, and more using just an iPhone or Apple Watch, visit hidglobal.com. Getting up.
And so as we dive a little bit deeper into that experience, so the goal and the purpose is for that credential to be very easy for your associates and your employees, maybe even your contractors, to use once that badge has been provisioned. Now, inside of that mobile experience app, there's a lot of controls. There's a lot of features to those workflows that we talked about at the very beginning. So that allows you to do quite a number of different things after that provisioning. So the journey post-provisioning is really where that employee journey or the employee experience app really begins. So the journey always starts today, we see, with mobile credentials, getting people into the workplace, getting them to adopt that new workplace experience app. And then you can start interacting with your visitors or the spaces within the facility. Where CloudGate specifically is very different in our approach is we want these modules to be part of that lifecycle management of that credential. So if you've distributed mobile credentials, or even if you've distributed some physical credentials to those employees or visitors around the facility, that's going to interact with things like the space management. So as maybe you're invited to the executive conference room, CloudGate will automatically integrate with these different systems, keep those systems within sync. So if you need an additional access level or an approval to have access to that room for a particular time and date, we can automate that workflow with all the way down to that access control system, or even that HR system. So as you're hired, retired, maybe you move locations for a new job position, that information is going to stay in sync. So not only does that help with the employee experience and that employee engagement, it's also going to help drive the security benefits, making sure associates only have access during the times that they need. So you're going to stay within compliance, but also making sure that offboarding experience or that retire experience is going to keep the company within compliance. So people don't have access once leaving the organization or having access to sensitive areas or systems.
And one additional point to that, we were talking about automation, right? What has happened? What has changed since the COVID has kind of quelled? Well, everybody now in the same walks of life are used to mobility. We went to restaurants when the pandemic was kind of lifting, and what did we do? They did away with paper menus, and we had to scan QR codes. We finally have created, or not us specifically, but society has created this unification in the market of technology advancement. We've gotten so used to hybrid work. We've gotten so used to telecommunication or web meetings that we even were on today. Mobility now has to catch up to the changing world. And it seems like everyone was kind of, for the most part, sleeping in those 2 years, trying to figure out how to keep doors open, how to keep payroll going, and all those different things. And then all of a sudden, a bullet, left the chamber, and now everyone needs mobility. We need to advance. We need to unify. So the middleware aspect of CloudGate, and Josh expertly said this, really has to do with identifying your workflows as an identity less than a brand. So CloudGate, what we bring to the table that's rather unique is the vast list of different APIs that we have to the market. And this left the seamless integrations box. That's one flavor of a list of very many, many different systems that are out there, because the market has to adapt to mobility. Mobility doesn't have to adapt to the market, right? So we're trying to say, okay, these various different brands have to be integrated into a middleware platform, which is what you're seeing on the right, which now gives you automation options for things that may have fallen outside of the traditional scope of physical and logical security. Things like ticket trafficking or facility ticketing rather for work orders, things like storage and delivery or locker integrations for healthcare, for students, for enterprise. These are the things that really are what people are looking for. Now, when Amazon first came to the market, right, for those who've been around for a little bit, it used to be just a college book, trading website. Now, what is it? Now it's an all-in-one app where you can buy, slippers, vitamins, everything else. What they are not enforcing, though, is brand strictness. So with CloudGate, the way we come to the market is saying, okay, we're going to integrate with the systems that you want to keep, the systems that you're trained on, the systems that you've already paid for. We're going to replace what may not be fitting into your ecosystem requirements, things that you maybe bought a long time ago and they're just not advancing for you, and then adding what you don't have. So adding the gaps, realizing and being your technology consultants to saying, okay, we may need some wayfinding, we may need visitor management, we need mobile credentials, and then showing you how you can incorporate those, whether it's a mobile app environment or a web user interface, or just a simple platform for employees or visitors or contractors to log into. Please, thank you.
Yeah, Tim, and I think one of the other important things to note too is because the app is role-based, or it knows your identity, it's also going to know the type of credential and access you need. So not only the mobile credentials that we're talking about for employees, but those contractors and visitors who need temporary access as they log in and authenticate as well, that you have a single app for the organization, but only interacting with a portion of the workflow or experience that you need. So true interoperability, whether you have one of these access control systems or multiple. And that really is a segue into our next slide here. So the major advantage into the digital transformation that we see today really becomes down to the consolidation of systems. And most prevalently, we see that in access control. So if we look at the landscape of a lot of our customers today, whether it's a multi-tenant customer who has different access control systems across their different properties and they're looking for one solution, or whether this is multiple tenants in the same building who need to be able to move through the turnstiles, the elevators, as well as their private spaces. So the advancements of mobile credentials in general allow you to not only provide that experience, but start governancing that access to one or more facilities with a single badge or with a single credential as they move across. And that's most commonly today done with the experience apps that we see. They started off in the multi-tenant spaces where you, as a tenant, you can have different amenities, different resources, request access to the gym after certain hours and get your QR code at certain times of the day. So that experience now is really becoming a major need in the enterprise world because it connects these systems together. It allows you to consolidate the user experience while driving the compliance through that app as well. I think it's also important to notice the ROI savings that we see moving to mobile credentials. The fact that you can embed that technology into the single mobile app, or into the single credential. In the case of the employee badge, you're not printing as many badges. You don't have the manual process of rebadging somebody if they've lost or forgotten the card. As they log into the app or they switch iPhones, that badge is going to be automatically re-provisioned. And very similarly with the employee badge, if you lose your iPhone and mark that as lost my iPhone, it's actually going to deactivate the credential in all of these systems as well. So there's a major corporate advantage, as well as, again, that end user ease of use when they go to switch phones in a few months or in a few years.
And you made a great point, Josh, on ROI and TCO, right? So how do we calculate return on investment and total cost of ownership when we go into mobility? Remember those three approaches to the market, right? Replace what you don't like, keep what you want to use, or integrate with what you want to keep. What's it called? So replace, use, and add what you don't have. What that does is trying to take the manual processes, those manual pieces of how many employees you have running these processes, automating them, and then those employees now can do other tasks or complete tasks faster. Because right now what we're all experiencing is a hiring crisis, right? We went through a viral, pandemic, and now we're going through a hiring pandemic, where it's very difficult to find staff. It's very difficult when companies are trying to rapidly expand, finding adequate people to run these different departments. So automation is going to be the key to keeping your return on investment high and your total cost of ownership very, very low using middleware with your existing systems.
And so if we wrap this up a little bit, when we consolidate these different systems, when we're connected to these systems and we provide that mobile credential, what does that full journey look like? What is the benefit to an organization? So if we start to reimagine these workflows, these connected systems, it's going to start with that employee journey when you select CloudGate. So that means through that employee journey, you can manage your access. So if you're using your phone as your building pass, whether it's a mobile credential, whether it's a QR code, whether it's Bluetooth, or whether it's the employee badge and Apple Wallet, these credentials are going to be interoperable to help you move across all those systems that we talked about. So it's going to be intertwined with that HR system. So as you're onboarded and you move throughout the organization logically, it's going to notify the access control system, make sure that credential and that access is up to date. But also, as you expand that journey in the future, there are additional features that become available that help automate that path even more, whether it's wayfinding to destinations, knowing how to get to a location if you're a traveling employee, knowing that you have a new access that's been granted to you for a meeting coming up. So providing somebody the instructions so that they can utilize the access being given to them for specific meetings or maybe even a work order. Being able to further engage even with hybrid work environments, or just simply being able to automate those access levels. So as meetings are being booked, if you're meeting with 6 different people, making sure that 6 people show up to that meeting, and if they don't, being able to notify them of maybe notes or where they can find their recording after. So driving efficiency through things like even the reservation tools allow you to utilize data in different ways before, because you're connecting different departments. So if you have somebody who's overbooking conference rooms, you're getting conference rooms too big for the group, you can start to notify that in facilities and HR and start to drive the efficiency in that room, get them in a smaller room. That way you're not paying the heating and electric bills as well. So when you connect the different systems, not only are you leading to the usage with the experience, but you're providing insights on how these different solutions work together. With one of our multi-tenant customers, my favorite example comes down to the occupancy sensors. They noticed that they had an occupancy sensor in the room for security. They had one in there for their conference rooms for when somebody showed up to a meeting, but they didn't know how many. And now they have occupancy in their cameras. Today, they're only utilizing that camera to know if somebody is in the room, how many people showed up for that conference room with more accuracy. If there's an evacuation in that building, if there's somebody is still moving in that room and needs to be notified. So that new occupancy sensor, the way that data is collected and provided in an organization becomes beneficial and a number of new ways when you provide that workflow.
And remember too, the bottom tabs that we have there, CloudGate can fit in many different functions, right? So we are, space reservation management engine. We are a parking management engine, visitor management. We do approval engines, integrations, mobile credential distribution, alerting. So what that does for you, it kind of gives you that a la carte option of saying, okay, you know what? I need a visitor management system that integrates with Linnell, that simultaneously integrates with Genetec, but I also need to do maybe sex offender watch list checks because I'm in healthcare or education. But then I also want to give my contractors ability to book a desk or book a conference room. Now, all of those different silos or different tabs that we have on the bottom, those are all products of CloudGate that can work interdependently, or they can work collectively. So independently or collectively. And also what we can do as well is integrate with existing systems that are within there. So if you have existing parking, existing space, an existing visitor management system, ones that you don't want to rip out, we connect with them via API and we fill those gaps. The beauty of middleware versus that kind of, one trick pony approach to say, I do this. So focus on the identity, less than the product, and then you start seeing automation come into full blown.
And so with it, we're going to share one more video that's focused on the distribution of mobile credentials. What is the perspective of the administrative role, whether Convergint's doing this on behalf of customers or whether customers choose to assign a personnel to be able to manage this themselves. So this here's a look into what we call the CloudGate Smart Directory. This is going to stay in sync with your HR system, maybe your single sign-on, so we know the employees, where they're located, the access levels they have, but also is going to layer on the controls that you may need, such as being able to assign mobile credentials. So we'll go ahead and play this video, and then we'll turn it over to a live demonstration and some Q&A. With the CloudGate Smart Directory, you'll be able to manage all of your associates, tenants, contractors, or even visitors in one place. Here, you'll be able to manage any of the details you need for those users. In this case, we'll add Richard Webb for the purpose of being able to add a digital credential. Once you've completed creating the user's account, you'll be able to search the Smart Directory for that user or any group of users that you would like to manage. By selecting the checkbox to the right, you'll be able to choose an action such as adding a digital badge. Once you complete that action, you'll see the life cycle actually complete across all the connected systems. Here, we can verify that a license or an NFC credential was assigned all the way down to the HID or RICO portal. As an end user, they'll have the ability to download the CloudGate app and log in as a first-time user, and that's going to load their experience based on what you've configured with your corporate settings. Now that Richard has authenticated into the CloudGate app, we'll load the experience based on his role, permissions, and the location he's currently at, and present any action items, such as installing his digital badge at the bottom of the app. Once the employee badge is done being installed, you'll be able to view that directly within the Apple Wallet. Here's a look at the first time that Richard goes to use his employee badge when he arrives at work. You'll be able to see that he opens up his Apple Wallet, in this case, authenticates himself with his biometrics, and that allows the NFC badge to then be authenticated on the corporate access control system. You'll see in real time over to the right, those events are going to be paired both with the access control system and CloudGate for reports and auditing. And so with that, what I'll do now is I'll actually share my mobile phone. So we'll actually go through a little bit of what you saw in that video, but live. That way you have an idea of what that employee experience is going to look like from an application as well.
And just remember, team, if you use the chat or the group, we can answer any questions you may have live. We might even reference them on the call if they are relevant enough and not use case specific. But always contact the digital transformation team, your local Convergent representatives for any questions or demonstrations you may have on these products.
Yeah, and so what I've done now is I've just shared my phone to my screen. And so I'll do a couple things. First, I'll show the wallet here on a test phone, and you'll see I'm logged in with my Apple ID here. I have no employee badges within the Apple Wallet as of right now. So if I open up my CloudGate Experience app, I've already logged in here, and I can actually see that I've got an action item down at the bottom to be able to install my action, to be able to install my physical badge. So, or my employee badge, I apologize. So when I click that action, it's going to walk me through the steps that I need, such as adding my badge to Apple Wallet. And it's going to download that badge. So in real time, what's happening is the CloudGate app is going to, talk to both HID and receive that Apple Wallet in this case, to actually be able to provision that to my wallet, as well as my watch if I have a watch connected. So in here, you're actually be able to see that badge has been provisioned. I can add that pass now to my iPhone and my Apple Watch, and it gives me some details as that's happening in real time down here at the bottom.
Thank you, Josh. We just had a question come in. What about Android users?
Yep. So today, Android users are it's a little bit of a different user experience. So the app today will support Android Bluetooth credentials as well, and that's going to be a seamless experience for Bluetooth between iOS and Android. For the wallet features within Android, that is a roadmap feature with both HID and Wavelength. So today, that NFC pass would actually live in the mobile app. It would not live within an Android or Google Wallet today. And what you'll be able to see here is I have two ways to view my badge. I can either hit the button within the app, which will open up my wallet. I also can open up my wallet at any time and be able to use that badge within express mode or without even unlocking my phone. You'll see the badge is going to be provisioned with the customer logo. You can even customize the background, and then the associate or the employee name would appear here with the first name and last initial for HID. And then if I switch back briefly to the CloudGate app, so there's two types of credentials. Today is that was the HID employee badge that you saw. If I switch locations here, what you'll also see is I have the ability, selected the same location. I also have the ability to be a traveling employee because I have access to multiple locations. I can also load the app or the experience for a particular location. So down here at the bottom, I also can install a badge or different credential that may be needed for other locations. So if not all locations have the same hardware, maybe some are Bluetooth, maybe some are different NFC types of compatibility, you can provision multiple credentials through that same experience app as well.
Excellent, Josh. Thank you very much for walking through that, showing us a live demo of what it actually appears to be on your phone. I think it's important for everybody that was watching just to kind of take a few takeaways. The first one being, right, you do need to assess and understand what technology you have in place today, knowing whether or not your readers are NFC or Bluetooth compatible, and what the preference of the organization is. Is this initiative? It doesn't have to be all or none, right? I think that's really important to understand. There's going to be organizations that maybe don't allow phones in particular manufacturing areas. So mobile credentials for those employees don't make sense. But your executive teams, right, may only want to have mobile as part of their experience. So it's good to understand that you have a jumping off point for not only provisioning legacy cards, but also those that are looking for the mobile experience, and having it seamlessly integrated into Apple Wallet, using NFC so that you have that very seamless experience as an employee, similar to doing payments at a store, right? You want it to feel like everyday use. And through this platform and what Apple's bringing to the market in terms of the wallet experience, it's very much like that. We got another question that just came in here quick. Are you currently only working with HID, or do you support other platforms?
So same for
Wavelengths is supported, right?
Yes. So for NFC credentials, you really only have you have limited options right now because it's a new program, right? So you have HID, you have Wavelengths that are both going to be credential distributors for NFC. When it comes to Bluetooth credentials, then the gamut is available widely. So we don't dictate anything. It's really what is available on the market to date.
Tim, and I would also add we support other mobile credentials such as Safe Trust and their mobile wallet, as well as Zerv.
Yeah, so part of that entire experience, right? If you're an organization that has disparate access control systems, right? We know a lot of folks have grown through merger and acquisition. So you're going to have different access platforms that carry different cardholder databases. But what we're finding, especially in this, post-COVID world, you have a lot of resources that are shared across those organizations. So one of the added benefits of leaning into a platform like CloudGate and the partnership with Solo Insight is that through Convergint, we're able to integrate those multiple disparate PAC systems. We're able to give you a unified credential so that identities at one given time only have one active credential, so that you can not only facilitate them moving between facilities as that shared resource, but you also enhance that security in order to understand, clean that data, make sure one active identity to one active mobile or traditional card. And that really helps improve the compliance and auditing experience, helps to reduce the potential for any type of workplace violence that we're seeing, as well as also really give your employees peace of mind of the steps that you've taken, so that from onboarding to offboarding, somebody's terminated, right? You have real-time results in that card being deactivated. So overall, hopefully this was helpful just to give you an idea of what's needed in a mobile world to be able to facilitate issuing mobile credentials, and really why Solo Insight exists, not only for all those other automated features and capabilities from visitor management to physical identity access management and a variety of other capabilities within CloudGate, but really we need a platform that's going to be able to help bridge the gap with legacy access control systems that don't have a native way to provision a mobile credential, and be able to utilize this to make those connections and push this out to your user base. So with that, Tim, Josh, any other closing thoughts here before we say goodbye to our audience?
We have one more question where it says, how is access shared to phone from Genetec? Josh,
Yes.
want to take that one?
Yep.
So we can definitely get into a deeper conversation with that one, but the best way to describe that is CloudGate offers direct integrations today over 25 different access control solutions, Genetec being one of them. So what we offer both a one-way or a bi-directional sync. So with Apple Wallet specifically, we typically see that as a two-way sync. So we can actually provision the credentials, if you would like, to that Genetec system, and we can manage the life cycle of that credential that's being managed. We also, within CloudGate, manage physical badges, though. So with any of these systems, we can also import existing badges. So if we need to be able to turn that badge on and off, issue or deactivate it if a temporary badge is given to somebody because maybe they lost one at home. So there are a number of workflows in which we work with Genetec specifically to be able to map out the life cycle of that credential.
In addition to that, I apologize, Doug.
Oh, no, I was just going to kind of elaborate as well in that the integrations to those access control systems are read-write. So think of that mobile credential. The way it looks within Genetec is no different than how would it appear if it was a physical card. It's the user experience and actually transferring that mobile credential from the provisioning platform of Solo Insight to the actual phone of the user. That's where the difference is between trying to do it from Genetec, which you can't today natively push a credential out to a phone. So that's the benefit. But the experience within Genetec is no different, whether it's a mobile or a physical credential.
Yeah, excellent. And exactly kind of what I was hitting with that. Look at CloudGate as more of your access control kind of expansion tools. If you had, because a lot of organizations like the access control that they're using, they just wish it had this one feature, or they just would make it easier in their lives if it had this one advancement. So instead of going to the market and saying, well, now we have to budget out for the next 5 years for replacement, think to yourself, can middleware be the solution to expand those opportunities or expand those modules within Genetec, within Lenel, within your various different access control systems that are on the market? And then you change your mindset and your budget to more of an expansion engine as opposed to a replace engine.
100%. Well, with that, we don't have any other questions. Josh and Tim, thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully this was valuable for the audience, gave you some insight in terms of what to be looking for and how to provision a mobile credential, especially if you're leveraging legacy access control platforms. And with that, if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me, doug.greenwald@convergint.com, or your local CTC representative. and we'll be sure to be able to support you in any specific use cases and systems you have in place.